Listen. You feel that? No, no, no. Be quiet. There. Right there. Listen. Do you hear it? It's so faint. Barely there. Wait. There it is again. You know what that is. It's the sound of a word, a story, a truth, spoken 2,000 years ago.
Did you know that air particles never die? They blow and drift and have been present since the beginning of the world and will be here until it ends. They blow and drift from one body to another. They are always on the move. They have crossed rivers and oceans, cities and ruins, mountains and plains, always moving, always flowing, forever and ever. They have seen everything, been part of everything. There are no barrier you can put on the air.
Take a breath. You are not the first to breathe this air. This air, we share it. Heroes breathe this air. Yes, heroes. Men of wealth, men of hunger, lovers, killers, babies, old women. Animals have breathed this air. Feel it in your lungs.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who breathed your breath before you? Whose words are inside you now? And now? And now?
This story is a story that I breathed, that we breathe, that we continue to breathe.
It is a story from a long time ago, before history began, when time ran wild, when it was fast, when it was slow. It's a myth.
Or is it? It's told through generations by people whose bones have become dust, whose children's bones are dust.
Those that survive tell the story.
Shh. Listen. There it is. There is the story.
Well, here we are. Thebes. See that girl over there? That's Antigone, daughter of Oedipus and Jocasta. I know what you were thinking. Poor thing. She looks awful. Just staring straight ahead and seeing nothing. She was out again last night, digging through the streets, running through the forbidden areas, looking for... Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I knew her in the old days, before the war, when she was a princess. Her father was king, King Oedipus. He came out of nowhere. We had gotten word that our old king had been murdered on the highway outside the city. Then Oedipus shows up and marries the old king's widow, Jocasta.
Oedipus was a great king. He put the city back on track. The crime rate lowered. Everyone had jobs. The city flourished. The new king and his beautiful queen had 4 children. Yes, Antigone and her brothers and sister were born right in the middle of Thebes' success. The royal family was adored. Everyone wanted to be just like them, look like them, dress like them, the works.
As it turns out, they weren't what everyone thought they were. The king, well, he found out that he was adopted, and he starts digging right away. Who were his real parents? Why did they give him up? Why didn't anyone tell him the truth? Who is he, really? It's a bad set of questions to ask. If you are handed a perfect life on a silver platter, wouldn't you just take that life and live?
Not Oedipus. He keeps digging and digging and digging. He hits the truth. He killed the old king, way before he even got to our city. He met a stranger on the road, they fought, and he killed this stranger. That stranger was our old king. So our new king killed our old king. Worse than that, the old king was his father. That's right. So Oedipus's wife, the queen of the old king, who he married when he got to Thebes, was his real mother. Oedipus and Jocasta's sons were his brother and This precious girl and her sister were his sisters.
When Oedipus went to Jocasta and told her what he had found out, she was so distraught, so ashamed, she couldn't bear to live. So the beautiful queen, she took her leave of the earth. And Oedipus, well, he banished himself. He was so disgusted with what had happened that he gouged his eyes out and banished himself to live on the streets until the end of his days. He took with him these two sweet, beautiful girls. They never left his side. They wandered the streets, begging, living without a name, until our once great king died.
Man can live his whole life and never really know who or what he is. As we grow, we find out how to handle what we don't want to do. It's all in how you handle yourself. Recognizing your word, its law. Your actions, those speak to what's inside of you.
Creon, should I say, Creon, the new king of Thebes, Jocasta's brother. He looks so old for someone who shouldn't. Responsibility can do that to a person. Leadership can do that to a person. Problems and troubles can do that to a person.
When Oedipus died, his sons, Eteocles and Polynices, they took over, agreed to share the responsibilities as king of Thebes. Eteocles, though, didn't want to give up that power. Polynices wanted what was his, rightfully his. And the two brothers, they started a war to see who would rule the city.
To stand alone, to do the right thing.
The city has been burning, starving, wasting away, all at the hands of two boys who just wanted what was theirs. What do we want? We just want to be able to sleep at night. Night. So much happens when we should be sleeping. Last night, the boys, the handsome sons of Oedipus and Jocasta, the headstrong brothers of Oedipus, Antigone and Ismene, the nephews of Creon, the princes of Thebes, they ended it. They died, killed at each other's hands.
I'm next in line. I didn't want it. I didn't seek it out. No one with a brain in their head would choose to be a king at a time like this. This is my time. I can do this. I must do this.
These two beautiful girls, that is all that is left of the once great family of Oedipus. They are alone.
Antigone? Sister?
Shh, you'll wake everyone.
What are you doing out here?
I came out to see the sunrise. My heart told me there wouldn't be one. There shouldn't be one.
What are you talking about?
The sun shouldn't rise without them here.
Them? Oh, the boys.
I saw it and I can't unsee it. Our brothers, Ismene. Their bodies tangled and entwined in each other like when they were little and used to wrestle. Except they don't laugh. They didn't get up. I went through the streets and I saw the guards coming. I knew it was a forbidden area, so I hid behind the gate. And I just saw them, not moving. The guards picked up Eteocles' body. They washed it off, put it on the cart, and took him away.
And Polynices?
Creon has made a solemn edict that Eteocles, with whom Creon sided and Creon supported, is to be buried and given the burial our birthright entitles us to. Polynices, his is to be left to rot. He is not to be given a proper burial. He is not to have a gravestone or a marker. His soul will float in the river of Styx, never to be joined with our mother and father and brother. Nobody is allowed to mourn for him.
And above all, any person who attempts to give him a religious burial will himself be put to death and labeled a traitor against Thebes. We must rebuild Thebes, bring it back to the glory that it once was. This cannot be done on the backs of traitors. It must be done with those who supported our former true and rightful king of Thebes, my nephew Eteocles. This is my solemn word. So I speak, Creon, king of Thebes.
I can smell burned flowers. Were you asking Athena for guidance?
I was. I prayed to her.
Did she answer you?
I think so. She gave me guidance.
What did she tell you?
Ismene, why are you out here? Did I wake you?
No, an awful noise woke me up. It was Nurse. She was wailing. She kept crying and saying "My little lions" over and over.
Creon had better not hear.
She wasn't using their names, just "my poor little lions" over and over. She always said that they were lions. They fought like lions. Always told them to be wise and that only one could be the leader of the pride.
She knows the gods will know who she means. How terrible! We can't even mourn the dead properly. Damn Creon!
Antigone, you cannot say that. He is king now.
Ismene, you have always been the dearest and kindest of the four of us. I need to ask something of you.
Anything.
I need your help with my work.
What is it, little dove?
Help me bury our brother.
We cannot bury him. It is against the law.
Creon's law. It means nothing.
Antigone, it's not nothing. The law is not nothing. You can die for it. That is not nothing.
Ismene, our brother is rotting in the street. His soul will never rest.
Slow down, little one. Stop for a minute. Think of what you are asking. Rest.
I cannot rest. What is wrong with you? How are you so calm? It's our brother, Ismene.
Sweet one, slow down. Stop. Rest.
I can't. I can't. Oh, Ismene, I'm so tired.
I know you are so tired. Just rest for a minute. Just 1 minute.
For a minute, I'll rest. Just for a minute.
Good. Come, sit down next to me. We will both rest. Just for a minute. It's been so long since I slept. Really, truly slept.
How long?
A long time. Before the war, before we left with our father.
When Mother was alive, when Father could see, when we lived here as the princesses of Thebes.
Yes. Oh, how I slept. I used to curl up on Mother's lap and play with her hair. She had such soft hair. Hair like yours.
I miss her. I miss Father.
Me too. I wish the gods hadn't fated us as they did.
I don't want to think about it. Tell me a story.
What kind of story?
Story about what it was all like before the war, before all of it. It's hard for me to remember. Tell me something I never knew.
Mama used to paint my toenails. After the boys were born, she would take time with just me. And she would paint my toes the palest shade of pink, and she would put her face close to my toes and blow warm storms of breath on them. And then she would paint her toes the same color, and we would put our feet together side by side. My toes were so small next to hers. After you were born, she would hold you up so that your little feet could dangle next to ours, and I knew how big I really was. And I would blow breath on your toes, and then you would laugh and pull at my hair and play with it, and you would just laugh. And Mama would laugh. And Father would come in after playing with the boys, and he would smile at you and take you and toss you up in the air. And you would fly up, and he called you his little dove. And that's where you get that nickname. You never knew that before.
No, I never knew that before.
Sleep, little dove. Close your eyes. Let your mind rest.
I cannot sleep anymore. I close my eyes and my mind is full of dreams. But dreams filled with ghosts, haunted with the ghost of Polynices. I must bury him, Ismene. I must bury my brother.
Eteocles is being buried. Creon has declared that he will be buried and give full rights. He will have a prince's burial.
And not Polynices. He was a prince too. He deserves the same respect. He was my brother.
Our brother. He wasn't just your brother, Antigone. He was mine too. All your dead. They are my dead too.
Then help me.
I can't. We can't. We cannot break the law.
To hell with the law. How can you just leave him there?
Because he is dead and we are alive. We survived. We must survive. We cannot be seen as traitors. We can start our story again.
Oh yes, we will start again. We will work. I will marry Haman. You will find a husband. We will start families. What happened to our family won't haunt us for the rest of our lives. We won't be seen as all that remains of the cursed family of Thebes.
It could happen. You will marry Creon's son Haman, as you are supposed to. He is next in line to the throne, our father's throne. You could be queen, just like our mother. Antigone, listen to me. Creon has publicly forbidden it. Don't do this. You will ruin what little we have left.
You don't get it. He can't forbid me to love my brother. Creon has neither the right nor the power to do that. We cannot have things go back to the way they were. You can do as you please. For you, there is nothing but what you can see and taste and touch and smell. For me, there are other worlds, and those worlds have their own laws.
Antigone, I don't want to fight about this anymore.
Why must you always change the subject, simply because you don't want a part of it? Haman tells me not to talk of it either. You will stir up a hornet's nest, as though we are discussing a servant who stepped out of line. It's our brother, Ismene.
Please.
Don't say any more. You have always done as you are told. I was a fool to ask for your help. In fact, if you were to offer your help, I would refuse it. I'm going to go and bury my brother. If I die in the attempt, I shall die. Die in the knowledge that I've acted justly. What greater satisfaction than that, for a loving sister to embrace a loving brother even in the grave, and be condemned for the criminal act of seeing him at peace? Our lives are short. We have too little time to waste it on men and the laws they make. The approval of the dead is everlasting. Do as you please. Live by all means. The laws you will break are not of man's making.
I'm frightened, Antigone. I'm frightened for you.
Don't be frightened for me. Fear for yourself. You have to live with yourself.
For the gods' sake, keep what you are doing quiet. Don't tell anyone. I'll keep our meeting a secret.
Don't you dare. You must tell everyone. Shout it in the streets. If you keep it a secret, I will begin to hate you.
Antigone, you scare me. Hearing all that you are saying, it makes me go cold just to hear you.
I'm not doing it to please you. It's for him.
This will destroy you, sister. You're certain to fail.
I will fail when I have failed, not before.
If you've made your mind up, Antigone, it's madness. Remember, I love you. Whatever happens.
Thebes is hot today. Yesterday, the sun was beating down on a war, a land covered in death. Today, it shines down onto peace. What a word. Peace.
The roads are open. The doors of people's homes are opening up. The gates of the city are opening.
The city is breathing again. The war is being taken away. Peace is coming. Peace is here. You hear that? That is the breath of peace, the breath of sighs, signaling that relaxation of 10,000 people.
That's not what I hear. That's not what I breathe. The air. It tastes like death.
Child, let the dead be. Let them rest.
How can they rest if they don't leave the world at rest? I must find him so he can rest.
Friends, the war is over. It is done. Come out of your shelters, out of your hiding places, and look at the new Thebes. A Thebes that is unified as one. The resistance has crumbled, and the streets are once again safe to walk in. I speak to you today as your king. Our country, like a ship at sea, has survived the hurricane. The gods who sent it have navigated us into calmer waters now. Those who stand around you stand because you have always been loyal. Your predecessors were loyal and reliable in King Laius's time. And when King Oedipus, in his exceptional wisdom, restored the fortunes of the city, when tragedy struck him and his rule was ended, your loyalty to the blood royal was never questioned. And you supported his sons, till they too were brought down in a single day, incestuously murdered, each brother shedding a brother's blood. By that same blood right, as next of kin, I claim the throne in all its power, both city and kingdom. I claim it and hold it from today as mine by right, as the brother of your former queen, from today as mine by right. And when the day comes that I go to join the underworld, my son, Haman, will take my place as king of Thebes. There is no certain measure of a man's quality, the depth of his intellect and the maturity of his judgment, until he is put to the supreme test by the exercise of lawful power in the state. What I know is this: I am a son of Thebes. When I see any threat to this nation, from whatever direction, I shall make it public. No one who is an enemy of the state shall ever be a friend of mine. The state, they are our father. It is everything. And if it sinks, we all drown, and friendship drowns with us. That's my policy. In pursuance of that policy, I have issued an official decree concerning the sons of Oedipus, Eteocles, who died fighting for his country. And with exceptional bravery, we shall and have buried him with all the honors and funeral ceremonies customary for a man who died a hero. The other, the outcast, the exile, his brother, Polynices, who returned here at the head of a foreign army to destroy his homeland, burn down the city who raised him and supported him, and to reduce the people to a condition of slavery or kill them in the streets. I have ordered that he is to have no grave at all. No one is to bury him, to mourn for him. His body is to be left open, uncovered, a stinking feast for the scavengers, dogs, and crows, a sight to inspire terror. I intended to make it quite plain that never, under my administration, will people who commit crimes against the state reap any benefit from their actions, at the expense of honest, decent citizens too. But people who serve state, alive or dead, that makes no difference. I shall honor them for their patriotism.
My lord, the body is not there. Someone or other has taken it. All that is there is a handful of dust, dry dust, properly sprinkled, religiously, and then gone, whoever it was.
Do you know what you're saying?
Who has dared defy my orders?
No way of knowing, sir. We have no idea. There's been no digging, no spade marks or nothing. No wheel tracks either. There are no clues at all to tell us who have done it. It's as if the body has just disappeared.
What do you mean? As if it's vanished?
Not buried in a proper grave, I don't mean. Lightly covered with a layer of earth, almost as though some passing stranger, knowing that a body that does not have some part of the earth lightly covering them, will live in everlasting anguish and wandering without rest.
It scared us all so. We guarded the body as you told us. We didn't touch the body, but someone had to. We argued, we fought, but we fought because we were scared. My lord Creon, this policy of yours, it has frightened us from the start. This is a warning from the gods. They are not pleased, and they took the prince to rest forever.
How dare you? Shut your mouths, all of you, before I lose my temper. Someone has paid someone. Money. Money infects mankind with every sickness we have a name for. No greater scourge than that. Money that pounds great cities into piles of rubble, turns people by the millions into homeless refugees. It corrupts men into doing things they would be ashamed to think of before the fee was mentioned, until there's no crime that cannot be bought. In the end, it brings them into the execution chamber. Well, whoever they are, these men, they'll find a price considerably higher than they thought it was. I swear to you all by Zeus, my God, whose power I revere, that either you will all find the man who buried the body of Polynices in defiance of my express command and bring him here. The actual man who sprinkled the earth, no other will do.
I need to speak to the king.
Antigone, my niece, what has happened? To what do I owe this pleasure?
We arrested her.
Why? For what reason?
She was the one burying him. What else is there to say?
Are you out of your mind? Do you realize the implications of what you're saying?
Sir, she was burying the body. I saw her. The body you ordered not to be buried. I can't speak plainer than that.
Did you catch her in the act? Did you see her doing it?
My lord, we returned to the place where we guarded the body. The sun was smack overhead, blazing down, and the heat was terrible. Then, suddenly, there was a great whirlwind. It blew up, definitely a twister it was, and it raised up a dust storm. It completely blinded us. It seemed as if all the gods of Olympus had created a terrible manifestation. You had to shut your eyes in order to endure it all. Then it suddenly stopped. Then we saw her, standing there, looking at the body, and she was screaming and cursing the men who had done this thing. She picked up a handful of dust and scattered it on him. She carried an urn, a small bronze thing, and poured it 3 times on the body. Soon as we saw that, we came charging down to arrest her, and she didn't move. She wasn't frightened or anything. She stood her ground. She admitted she had done it.
And you, with your head down, what do you say to this accusation? Do you admit it? Are you guilty or not?
Yes, I'm guilty. I don't pretend otherwise.
Now tell me, a simple yes or no. Did you hear of my order forbidding the burial?
Yes, I heard it. How could I not?
And you dare disobey the law?
Yes, I did. Because it's your law, not the law of God. Natural justice, which is of all times and places, not material, a quality of Zeus, not of kings. Recognize no such law. You are merely a man, a mortal, and like me, laws that you enact cannot overturn ancient moralities or common human decency. They speak the language of eternity, are not written down and never change. They are for today, yesterday, all of time. No one understands where they came from, but everyone recognizes their force. No man's arrogance or power could make me disobey them. I would rather suffer the disapproval and punishment of men than dishonor such ancient truths. I shall die, of course, sometime, whether you make laws or not. If my death is to come sooner rather than later, I shall welcome it. My life has been misery, is misery now. There will be no pain and no despair in leaving it. But to leave my mother's son out there in the open, unburied, that would have been unendurable. I could not have done it. This, your judgment, I shall endure. By your judgment, I am a fool, but by mine, it is the judge, not the accused, who is behaving foolishly.
Well, we shall see. Anyone can be broken. And often the most committed and determined break soonest. Even iron, you know, left lying in the fire too long becomes over-tempered and will snap as soon as a little pressure is applied. You can break it to pieces. This woman is very proud. That was obvious in the first place when she broke the law, and is even clearer now. She glories in the crime she has committed, and insults me as a king and her uncle by ignoring my decree. Simply because you are my family does not allow you to ignore the law. There will be no exchanging of roles here. Me playing the woman while you play the king. She is my niece, my sister's child. But I am the law. And that responsibility, my responsibility to my state, to Thebes, is more important than kinship. Were she even closer, the closest, my own daughter, my duty would be plain. She would have married my son. It would have been queen of Thebes someday. The law has its weapons, and they will strike at her and at her sister too, her accomplice. I've no doubt in this illegal act. Bring in the other one, Ismene. I saw her in the corridor talking to herself and sobbing emotion like a madwoman. Guilt can never be hidden. There is nothing more disgusting than the confessed criminal who tries to justify his actions, as this woman has done here today.
What more do you want? Kill me and have done with it. What are you waiting for? Nothing you say will be of slightest interest to me, and my arguments you will not listen to. I've done what I said I'd do. I've buried my brother. I aspire to no greater honor, and if I am to be famous, let it be for that. All of these people, our people, think and agree with me in their hearts. There is no gag like terror, and tyrants must have their way, both in word and action.
You are mistaken, you foolish girl. None of the Thebans anywhere in the city think as you do.
You are the fool. They all do. They keep their mouths shut when you are here. Creon, listen to me. I love my brother. I honor him dead as I loved him living. There is no shame in that.
And the one he murdered, wasn't he your brother?
My mother bore them both, and I loved them both.
If you honor one, you insult the other.
Neither of those dead men would say that.
Eteocles would. His brother was a traitor.
But he was not an animal. They were both men. They both died together.
Yes, and one died defending his country while the other traitorously attacked it.
The dead have their rights, and we have our duties towards them, dictated by common decency and by love. I was born with love enough to share, no hate for anyone.
Very well. Share your love by all means. Share it with the dead. I wish them well. Women must learn to obey as well as men. They can have no special treatment. Law is law, and will remain so while I am alive. and no woman, regardless of who they are, will get the better of me. And you snake, slithering about my house to drink my blood in secret. Both of you are the same. I look the other way, and like your traitorous brother, you laid plans to destroy me, to destroy Thebes. Well, do you too confess your part in this crime, or will you plead the innocence?
Yes, I confess. If she will allow me to say so, I was fully involved. And if she is guilty, then so am I.
Liar! That isn't justice. When I asked for help, you refused me. And so I told you I didn't want you. I'd do it alone.
But now that you're in danger, Antigone, I'm proud to stand beside you.
The dead man knows who buried him. What use are people who are all words and no action?
Please, my sister, don't despise me. Let me share the honor and die with you.
You've no right to claim the honor for doing what you were afraid to do. One death will be enough. Why should you die?
Because life without you won't be worth living.
Ask Creon to protect you. He is your uncle. He is your family now.
Do I deserve such contempt? Do you enjoy making fun of me, sneering at my misery?
You're right. It's a reflection of my own pain if such bitter pleasures are all I have left.
Let me help you then. It's not too late.
Save your own life. Do that without any criticism from me. Or envy.
For the God's sake, Antigone, will you not allow me to even share my death with my sister?
No, I won't. You chose to live when I chose to die. That is the end of it.
But I wasn't afraid to speak. I warned you that this would happen. I knew how it would be.
And most, the majority, would agree with you. But some would be of my opinion. No, you must live. I have been dead a long time inwardly. I am well suited to pay honor to the dead and die for it.
These women are both crazy, speaking as wildly. Ismene, you lost your senses the minute you allowed yourself to be influenced by her lunacy.
There's no life for me, not without my sister.
Don't speak for her. She is as good as dead.
Will you kill the woman your son plans to marry?
There are other women for a young man as handsome and as privileged as my son. There is no lack of choice. There are other fields he may plow.
But they are devoted to each other. You can't change love as you change your clothes.
No son of mine can marry a criminal. Death parts all lovers, sooner or later. Lock the criminal up. Put the other in her room and keep them under guard. It's time they understand that they are women and that they have a place in our society. There is nothing like the immediate threat of death and solitude to soften up their spirit and make them look reality in the face.
Few can call themselves lucky. The fortunate few who live their lives through never drinking from the bitter cup of pain. When one unlucky family incurs the god's malignity from generation to generation, they must swallow the bitter poison again and again. Zeus is all-powerful, and no man can match him. He never sleeps as man must sleep, and he punishes those that are cursed. The weight of his vengeance is cast on the whole race. Agony, destruction, disgrace, destroy son and daughter and darken their halls with tragedy.
Creon, here comes your youngest son. Is he desperate with grief that his future bride should be so brutally denied and all his hopes of future happiness gone? For the last of your sons, what relief from his consuming fears and the bitter penance of tears. Does he come to beg for mercy for his beloved Antigone?
My dear son, I don't doubt you heard the news of our final decision. The condemnation of the woman you intended to marry. You come here, I hope, not in any spirit of anger against your father, but understanding that we are always comrades. And my love for you will never waver.
I know I am your son, Father. For the gods have saw it fit to take my brothers early in life. I understand the depths of your experience in matters of state, and I try to follow from it and benefit from it whenever I can. Any marriage would be worthless to me if it did not have your approval and love.
My son, hang on to that. A father's opinion should always be influential with his son. And fathers with young sons, when they pray for them, ask especially that they should pressure the first to strike at their father's enemies, just as they are the first to support his friends. A father whose sons yield no such profits from this investment of his parenthood breeds grief and sorrow, and his offspring becomes a figure of fun, especially to his enemies. Listen to me, Haman. Never be taken in by your enemies, by any woman. Don't let any woman ensnare you by exploiting her sexuality or any of the attractions that lure infatuated men into submission, with Dionysus luring over them. May the gods help the lovesick man who marries a dominating woman. Passion never lasts, and a cold bedroom breeds cold hearts, anger and bitterness. For there's no hatred of two people who were once in love. My son, get rid of her. The girl's an enemy. Spit her out like a poison. Cut her out of your heart like the cancer that she is. She is a confessed traitor. And if I were to spare her life, I too would betray the state and its law. Everything I stand for. I will not do it. She must die.
Father, your disapproval has great power, and it weighs a silencer on most men's tongues. But I can hear what people sometimes whisper behind their hands, and everywhere I hear sympathy expressed for this unfortunate girl, condemned as she is to a horrifying death that no woman has ever suffered before, and unjustly in most people's eyes. In burying her brother, who was killed in action, she did what most people consider decent and honorable, rather than leaving him naked on a battlefield for scavengers to pick and tear at. She should be given a medal for it, those people say, and her name inscribed on the roll of honor. Such things are whispered in secret, Father, and they have reached my ears. Sir, your reputation matters to me much as your good health and happiness do. Indeed, your good name matters more. What can a loving son be more jealous of than his father's reputation? And what could please a father more than see his son's concern that people will think well of him? Let me beg of you to have second thoughts about this. Don't let your anger influence you. If a man of my age laid some claim to common sense, let me say this. Absolute certainty is a fine line, and if a man can be certain that wisdom is absolute. But certainty in such wisdom is rare among men, and that being so, the next best is to learn and listen, and to take good advice when it's offered.
There is a lot of sense, Lord Creon, in what this young man has said, as indeed there was in everything that you said too. The fact is that you are both in the right, and there is a good deal to be said for either.
Is there indeed? Am I expected to listen and take lessons in political tactics at my age from a mere boy?
I am a man, Father, and my arguments are just. They stand on their merits, not my age.
Oh, they stand on their merits, do they? What merit is there, please tell me, in breaking the law?
If she has done something shameful, I wouldn't defend her.
She's brought the law into contempt. That's shameful.
Listen to the people on the streets, Father. The ordinary Thebans. They say she hasn't.
I never base my political principles on the opinions of the people in the streets.
Now look who's talking like a boy.
I am speaking like a king. It's my responsibility, and I will act according to my own convictions.
When a state becomes one man, it ceases to become a state.
The state is the statesman who rules it. It reflects his judgment. It belongs to him.
Go and rule the desert then. There's nobody to argue with you. Oh, what a king you'll be there.
This boy of mine is on the woman's side.
Yes, if you are a woman, I am. I'm on your side, father. I'm fighting for you.
You damned impertinent devil. Every word you have said is against me. I am your own father.
When I know you're wrong, I have to speak.
How am I wrong? By maintaining my position and the authority of the state? Is that wrong?
When position and authority rides roughshod over moral feelings.
I don't know you. You are weak. You have no will of your own. You are the woman's mouthpiece.
I'm not ashamed of what I'm saying.
Every word you have said pleads for her cause.
I plead for you and for myself, for common humanity, for the respect of the dead.
Haman, hear me. You will never marry that woman. She won't live long enough to see that day.
If she dies, she won't die alone. There'll be 2 deaths, not 1.
Are you threatening me? How dare you?
I'm not threatening. It's not a threat. Your policy and stance has been misbegotten from the beginning.
Dear God, if anything is misbegotten, it's you, my son. You'll regret this. I promise you, you will regret this.
If you were not my father, I would have said you lost your mind.
Don't father me. You are that woman's plaything, a tame lapdog.
Is anybody else allowed to speak? Must you have the last word in everything?
Here is my last word. I promise you, you will regret what you have spoken here. I will not be sneered at or contradicted by anyone. Bring her out, the twisted, cursed thing she is, and let her die here and now, in the open, with her bridegroom beside her as a witness. You can watch the execution.
That is one sight I shall never see. Nor from this moment, Father, will you ever see me again. Those that wish to stay and watch this disgusting spectacle in the company of a madman are welcome to it.
My lord, a fury has possessed your son and swept him away like a whirlwind. A young man's anger is a terrible thing.
Let him go and shout his head off about his stance and opinion till he raves himself senseless. It will take more than my son stamping his foot to change my mind.
Both of them, sir? You mean to truly put both sisters to death?
No, you are right. I can take advice. Only the one who covered the body, not the other.
So, what shall be Antigone's manner of death?
Take her to a place, lonely, covered with rocks. Find a cave and wall her up. Seal her in, bury her alive. With enough food, though, so that no guilt nor will fall upon the state. She'll have plenty of time to honor the gods of the dead there. Her prayers will release her, and she will learn that worshiping the dead is not the business of those living.
When madness strikes, no one is safe. The natures of men will commit follies and crimes, undreamed of in saner times. What else could provoke this strife between father and son? This family divided in murderous anger between kin? There is a fire in a woman's eyes, incited by such consuming heat, that a man's mind can burn. Yet how can we talk of justice and the needs of state while we stand and watch this horrific sight? My eyes will have their way and weep, seeing Antigone like a young bride going to her bedchamber to marry the dead and share their everlasting sleep.
In all of my wanderings, this place has been my home. I was born in this very palace. This city is who I am. And now I begin my last journey. The sun in the sky shines its familiar face and warms me, saying goodbye. In the daytime of my life, death arrests me, as he arrests everyone, young or old, in the streets or in the warmth of their beds. He will take me to the cold waters of darkness, never to return across that silent rive. There will be no wedding for me, no music, no guests. My wedding gift is eternity and a stone tomb. My dowry, forever not to be. Death, my bridegroom.
Antigone, my child, hear me. Your actions are famous. In every street, mouths whisper your name. While you may go down to the dead, you have glory following you, and nothing has happened to devout your beauty. No sword has touched you or marked you. You pass from the world in this unsafe-filled light to eternal safety of the night, alive, alone, and free. But you will see your family once again. No one has ever dared to go as far as you have. Now you have stumbled. You have stubbed your toe, and you will shortly shed your blood on the marble staircase of the law. You carry your father's crimes like a milestone on your back. Small wonder in such times, if the bones bend and break.
Nothing is more painful than that, than the remembrance of my father's long agony and the curse on my suffering family from the beginning. So much grief from the unlucky chance of the son finding the mother's bed, and worse than anything, the benighted offspring of that unspeakable marriage. And I, with the others, share that terrible destiny. Conceived in incest, no repentance can soften the punishment. As the years pass, the agonies increase, and there is no pity for our tears. No marriage for me, for certain. I shall close that book forever. As I meet my father and mother in the darkness of Hades, I ensure that the weddings will cease. What came of the marriage finished my brother, and finishes me too. Please spare me your sympathy. Weep no tears, whether they be true or false. I know the path that I must follow, to the sunless country of eternal sorrow, to the bleak waters of eternity, the unimaginable years. No grief where none is felt. I shall go alone into silence in my house of stone.
If death could be prevented by singing arias or any other self-indulgent display of grief, this could go on forever. One could have no doubt of it. I have had enough. Take her away and lock her up in her stone vault, with a mountain for a roof, and seal the door. Let her die there if she chooses, or if she prefers, let her stay alive in her grave. The grave's the only fit place for her, solitary confinement among the dead. Whatever she does, there will be no guilt on me nor on Thebes. Her death is her own choice. There is no place for her among the living.
To my grave, then, my honeymoon bed, my prison, my crypt under the mountains, my home for the rest of time. I shall meet so much of my family there. We shall be guests of the sad-faced Queen of the Shadows, Persephone, in that bleak hotel that is never short of a room. But my father will be there to meet me at the door. My mother will smile her warm smile and hug me close as she always did. And not one, but both of my brothers will be there as well. I did the right thing in ensuring Polynices could rest forever with the others of my family. I could have bowed my head and bent to your word, but I would have never been able to hold my head up. My love had to speak at Polynices' grave or nowhere. For doing that, Creon, my mother's brother, will bury me in a mountain, and I shall die, unmarried, without children, and without a future on earth. But my heart will be at peace. Let me ask you a question, uncle. You speak constantly of law. Tell me, what moral law have I broken? What eternal truths have I denied? How can there be any sense of hope or future when common decency has become a crime? If the gods in Olympus have changed their minds and this is the way they order things now, I shall soon know it. I shall have learned my lesson the hard way. But if some others are mistaken, let them be punished as I've been punished, and suffer the injustice that I suffer.
She hasn't changed, even now. The anger inside her still blows like a hurricane.
The sooner she's got rid of, shut up out of harm's way, and forgotten, the better. Take her now, or you will regret it.
That word is my death.
And now it has been spoken. Don't discomfort yourself with hope. There's none.
This is the land of my fathers, Thebes, built by a god. You see, my time has run out. There is no more left. I am the last of the royal blood, a daughter of kings, and I die his victim, unjustly, for upholding justice and the humanity of humankind.
The child Antigone is now paying for the parents' pride.
Silence, fool. I've spoken about what is to be done. Nothing will sway me.
My lord, you speak too soon, for there is someone wiser than all of us.
Husband, look who we have with us.
Tiresias, what news brings an old prophet so far? Are you here to counsel me?
They say that they have important news that cannot wait.
I've always listened and acted upon it more than once.
Like a sensible captain who values his ship, you've avoided the rocks.
I admit it. We all do. We're in your debt.
I hope you heed my advice and listen once again.
Why would I not?
For I do not think you will like what I have to say, but I must say it.
Then say it, wise one. Without you, Thebes would have fallen even farther during Oedipus's reign.
The gods were not happy then. They are not happy now.
Why would they not be? Order has been restored to Thebes.
Has it? Or is it a skeleton of what it once was?
You speak in riddles. Speak plainly and tell me what you have come here to say.
You're like a man balanced on a razor, likely to fall or cut himself into pieces.
Anyone would shudder hearing such things from your lips, for that I foretold so many horrors.
Can you be serious? Tell me what you mean.
I intend to. Everything my experience of forecasting the future and understanding symbols has revealed to me. I'll make it plain to you. I was sitting in my usual seat, a place where I can hear the singing and secret language of the birds, when I heard a terrible new sound, like shrieking or crying, a hysterical twittering and listening like some barbaric language, all incapable of expressing hatred or pain. I looked up, and the sounds were as if the birds began attacking each other, as if they were at war, and both birds then went quiet. I reached up onto the branch and felt the birds, entangled in each other, soaked with each other's blood. I immediately took the birds to my altar to see what I could learn from sacrifice by fire, but they wouldn't burn, but a dark, oozing, filthy liquid dropped from the fire and it sizzled, and I covered the oracle in ash and embers and decays. And then it was revealed. I understood that you, King Creon, have decreed this filth that covered my altar, the blood and flesh, and now stinks there is the blood and flesh of Polynices, the flesh of the unluckiest of sons of Oedipus.
Husband, listen to them. They have never been wrong.
My son, listen to me. Any man can make a mistake or commit a crime, The man who can recognize what he has done, the wrong he has done, admit it and put it to right, that is the man who will prove that it is never too late to become wise, and no one will condemn him. However, if he compounds his stupidity with stubbornness and refuses to face the facts, then he is nothing but a fool. Is there anyone more stupid than a stupid man who cannot see his own stupidity? Polynices is dead. Don't revenge yourself on his remains. You can kill a man once, and once only. Is there any glory to be gained by defacing a poor corpse? Take my advice, young man, by someone who wishes you well. Take it.
So that's your news, is it? I am to be the target, am I? For everyone to shoot at. I am wise too. Wise to the ways of fortune tellers and the buying and selling you all go in for. I say I am to what you mean. Is that it? Let me tell you this. There is not enough gold, silver, words, or wisdom to deflect me from my purpose. Because I know that no single act, however much it may degrade the earth and the men who perpetrate or suffer it, a person can't all be like you, Tiresias, like a stone, especially if he pretends to give good advice and wraps it up in a profound cloak.
Are there any wise men left? Anywhere?
Bad advice is worse than worthless. It's a disease which infects the wisest of men.
You described your own symptoms exactly.
I refuse to become involved with an argument or quarrel with the recognized prophet of Thebes.
And yet you insult me to my face. You say my predictions are both false and dishonest. You call me a liar.
He does not mean to insult you, wise one. Creon, listen to what they say.
If you take what I say as an insult, that is not my fault. That is because all fortune tellers are money-hungry liars, and you come peddling fortunes. Do you realize the man you're talking to? I am the king.
You are the king, yes. My advice could make you a good one. My advice made you king.
Yes, you had your successes, and it was you who gave Oedipus counsel. But your honesty is something else to be spoken of. I have never trusted you.
Then let me not tell you everything. The dark waters of prophecy are better left undisturbed.
Disturb them for all I care. Say anything at all, but say it honestly, not for the money I can give you.
Creon, why are you being so stubborn? They give you counsel and you throw it back.
I did not realize that you were both my queen as well as my advisor, Eurydice.
Are you really foolish enough to believe that money has ever been my motive? Listen to me, Creon. This is the truth. Before many more days, before the sun has risen, you will have made your payment for your actions. Corpse for corpse. A child of your own blood. You have buried one still living, the one who moves and breathes, who you have given to the grave. And the other you leave unburied, unwashed, unwept, without the common courtesy due him. You have wronged them both, and with that the gods of the underworld, to whom the body justly belongs, are denied and insulted. This is not for you to judge. You hold yourself above them, and the gods are angry. The Furies will rise up from hell and swoop and fix their hooks into those who have committed crimes against them. The suffering you inflicted upon others, upon the gods, will be inflicted upon you and your family. There will be screaming, ah yes, before long. There will be screaming and wailing such as Thebes has never heard, and it will be in this house. Men, women, and all of those in Thebes and other cities and states will turn against you, and Thebes will be cursed as it has never been cursed before, if you do not right your wrongs. You have angered me, Creon, but it is nothing like the anger and wrath that the gods will show you if you insult the children of Oedipus any longer.
My lord, they came and went, promising nothing but disasters. Why do you not listen to them? They spoke there would be corpse for corpse. A child of your own blood. What of Haman? What of our son? They were right about your sister Jocasta and Oedipus, and they were right about what they saw before. I have watched this city as I have grown to be the woman I am now, and in all that time, I have never known any of their prophecies to be wrong.
Neither have I. So what am I to do? My mind is torn like a tug of war, and it goes one way and then the other, back and forth, pulling me. But what am I to do? Give way now? But how can I stand here like a fool and wait stubbornly for whatever disaster may be coming?
Lord Creon, it's time to take good advice.
Give it then.
Release Antigone from her prison and give an honorable burial to Polynices.
So that's your advice, is it? Total collapse and complete withdrawal. Do you all think that?
We do, sire, and do it quickly for the sake of the gods. They never move faster than when punishing people for the consequences of their actions.
Go on, sir. Do it now and do it personally, not by proxy. Do it with your...
Yes. I'll go, myself at once. I will go out to the mountain, and with a changed mind, it will be with the same determination that I sentenced her. I'll set her free, tear down the bricks with my own hands. Perhaps it is wiser to let the old laws stand. My fear tells me it is, and that's the voice every prudent man must listen to.
There is more tragedy for this family. Tell us your news.
They're both dead, and the living must take the blame.
Who's dead? Who killed them? What happened? Tell us.
The king's son, Haman. The royal blood shed by a royal hand.
His father, you mean? Or his own?
His own held the sword, but his father's actions drove it home.
The prophet warned us. It all came true.
That's how things are. It's in your hands now.
The doors are opening. Oh, look, it's Eurydice, Creon's wife. Does she know what you think? Has she come here by chance, or because she heard rumor about her son?
My good friends, my good servants, my ears caught of something you were saying. I was on my way to offer prayers to Athena when I heard a few scraps of your conversation. Enough to make me fear what all mothers fear, an accident or some disaster to those we love. I almost fainted, but I gathered myself. Speak it out, whatever it is. We are bred to stoicism in this family.
My dear queen, whom we all respect.
I was there. I will tell you what happened. There is no point in softening the blow. It is best to tell the truth. I went, following the king, your husband, to the edge of the battlefield, where we saw the body of Polynices still lying where he fell, where Antigone had been, trying to rest her brother. The king and I, we prayed. We prayed and asked for forgiveness, to not be angry. We washed the body, made a pyre, and burnt the remains, and we shoveled the Theban earth over the prince. And when we finished, we hurried off to the mountain where his sister was entombed. When we arrived, one of the guards, given the job of guarding that unforsaken place, came running back to tell the king that he heard a terrible noise like screaming from inside the mountain. As Creon got near, he heard it too, faint but audible, kind of weird sobbing or moaning. It was Haman's voice. Creon let out a moan that I've never heard in my life and said that this is what I was afraid of. Creon pushed himself inside of the tomb through the rocks that had already been forced aside, and I followed in behind. And in the darkest corner we saw her, strung up by the neck, hanging from an improvised rope of twisted linen strips, torn from her own dress. Haman was beside her, cuddling her body as it dangled there, sobbing at his wife's death, his heart broken from the death of his love. His father's cruelty made certain it would never take place. When Creon saw them, he staggered towards them and said, "My boy, my poor boy, why have you come here? There's nothing but death and despair. Come away from this, my son." Then Haman looked up, and his eyes were terrifying with the look of anger that I've never seen on a human before. Without a word, he spat in his father's face, drew his sword, and lunged straight for his father. Creon was quick and stepped out of distance. Haman, filled with self-disgust, held his sword at arm's length and plunged it between his own ribs, then lifted Antigone down into the crook of his arm and cradled her there. As his life flooded away before our eyes and his blood soaked her body, her white cheeks flushed red again with the blood stains. So now they're together, two corpses joined in death. They are together, married in the grave, but quietly sleeping side by side in one bed. Evidence of the havoc that man can bring upon man by his own pig-headedness and arrogance.
The queen, she has gone without a word, giving no indication of her feelings one way or another.
She has a good reason, I am sure. A public demonstration of grief would be unlike her. She will suffer like any other mother for her son's death, but in private with her ladies in waiting. She'd never do anything foolish or indiscreet. I'm sure of that. She's far too sensible.
I don't know. Her silence was unnerving, dangerously unlike what you would expect. This sort of silence is sometimes more threatening than screaming and tears.
I'll go in after her, just to make sure that grief doesn't tempt her to do anything silly or excessive. You are right, the silence was unnerving. She seemed to feel nothing, which, in my experience, can be dangerous.
Look there. The king is coming back, but not alone. A silent witness comes before him, dead as stone. Unspeaking evidence, a crime that the grief is all his own. He suffers now for his wrongdoing.
I was responsible. My actions killed him. There is no blame for him, none. My sweet boy. My hope. My joy. My hand powered the knife. My arrogance determined your fate.
You see the truth now, but you see it too late.
Suffering is the only school teacher. The gods have broken me, whipped me like a beast, and destroyed my self-respect. All pleasure, all rejoicing they have turned to anguish and weeping. Man is a naked mortal creature. Affliction is all he can expect.
My lord, you have suffered enough, but more suffering is marked to your name. One agony lies out here in the open, another is waiting, the same anguish redoubled behind the door. Your niece is here to speak to you.
There can be nothing worse. My heart is broken.
Your wife is dead. The mother of your son. Her wound is fresh, but the breath of life is gone.
Hades, in your deep abyss. Will you kill me too? Bring me to my knees to suffer longer. My case can be no worse than this. Can you kill me again? I am dead already. First the son, then the mother. No end to this grief, unending, undurable pain. A few moments ago, my trembling arms embraced a dead son. Now death has snatched the mother from my hands.
It was by the household shrine that she collapsed, holding the razor-sharp knife. As a darkness went across her face and the breath began to leave her body, she spoke of your sons, who the gods saw fit to take too early. By the empty bed of your youngest son, whose life ended today, she wept, knowing he would soon lay alongside his brothers. And with her last dying breath, she cursed you as his murderer, who drove him to this death.
There must be a sword somewhere, a sharp two-edged knife to cut away my life. Living is misery for me. When I look, I see death everywhere. She spoke the truth. All the guilt is mine. I am the murderer. Make that plain. Somebody, anybody, take me away. I disgrace the light of day. I have nothing now. I have nothing, and I become nothing. Nothing can happen to a man who is nothing. Why waste another day? What good is daylight to me? Why should my misery darken the face of another dawn? Pull down the blind and let me see no more.
Tomorrow is a mystery. No man can say what time will make it plain. We live day by day. The future is in greater hands than ours.
I am nothing. I want nothing. My last, simplest prayers.
It's too late to pray now. No time for prayers. What must come will come, tomorrow or today.
I am nothing. Take me then, the man who killed without knowing it, his wife and son. Where shall I go? Into the night. Darkness hides me. There's blood on my hands. My head is split. My back is broken. I wish to be dead. I should be dead. I want to breathe.
Let man attend to man's business, and let the gods play their part. Above all, stand in awe of the eternal, unalterable law. A proud man may pretend in his arrogance to despise everything but himself.
In the end, the gods will brief him to grief. Today it has happened. With our own eyes, we have seen that through suffering, we become wise.
His breath will carry on. His story will float among the air particles until it must be told again. Antigone's will carry on too, while it may live inside the mountain where she took her last breath. It was there. It is there. It holds her story, and now you hold the story.